as a writer, you should be connecting yourself with people that are better than you, because that's the only way you're going to become a better writer. I see so many people who just sort of like surround themselves with people at the same sort of level, or they're maybe the top of the heap. And if you're doing that, you'll never be great. If you're not being challenged by other people, the people that are in your life, maybe you need to start thinking about other things.
This is the Act One podcast. Our guest today is screenwriter Scott Reynolds. I'm your host, James Duke. I spoke with Scott over Zoom back in April during the early days of the COVID-19 outbreak. Spoiler warning, we do discuss some of the shows Scott has written on, including Dexter and Jessica Jones. So if you haven't seen those shows, be warned, we do talk about some key story plot points. Scott Reynolds, thanks for joining us, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Jimmy Duke.
You are alive so far, surviving the craziness that is COVID-19. I don't know when this is going to air, but most of the interviews so far have been in our lockdown. So, how's your family doing? How's everybody doing?
Everybody's everybody's cool. My son is out front. He's in film school, so he's out front right now working on a script in the shade. Audrey's making music in her room. She's got like a little keyboard beat maker thing. Amy's doing great. She's always keeping busy. And then I'm zooming in a room every day on a secret Showtime show. So
and that is what is that like? Because I've talked to a couple of writers who are have shifted to the virtual writer's room. Has that been a challenge for a lot of you guys, or is it just more the same old, or what?
We missed the boards. We missed being able to, everybody focused on, a writer's room is filled with 5, 6, 7, 8 giant whiteboards, and we're able to write story on it and break it by character and go through and go back and erase and adjust. And now we're doing it with it's a program called, I think it's called the Writer's Room or something like that.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. It's like cards, but in order to zoom out into seeing like a whole episode, everything's so small and packed in, and so that part's challenging. But we sort of would thank God for that program, because I don't know how we would do it otherwise. We tried doing it on a Word doc at first, and that was crazy. And it definitely makes you more focused. Like we fart around in the writer's room a lot. It's a lot of chasing silly, stupid stuff and talking about, did you see what Trump did?
Yeah. Right.
Who's taking bleach today? But and so there's a little bit less of that, because we know our time is, we Zoom from like 10 to 12:30, and then 1:30 to, we try to end around 4. Sometimes we go a little later, because we make sure that we take our clocks down in the corner of our computer. You're not just staring, it's been three minutes. And so sometimes, someone suddenly goes, oh man, it's 4:20. It's time to not be Zooming. But it's it's good. It makes you more, it honestly makes you more tired.
I can imagine. I'm sure, and the eye strain of just staring at a stupid screen that long.
Yeah, but it's also interesting, like seeing other people's lives. Like I've also I had a couple general meetings, and people like Warner Brothers, whatever, like pitching IP or whatever. But you get to see executives in there. Like there's this one executive over at like Vertigo or DC. Vertigo's no more, I guess. Yeah, so DC Comics, whatever, DC TV, whatever. And he was in his bathroom because he's got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Oh my god!
And so he has to. There's no privacy. The only place he has is private is his bathroom. So he puts up, a cool Martha's Vineyard background, but there's a strange echo because it's his bathroom. And then I just think about like just the weirdness of his time. Like, so his kids are home from school, and dad is always in the bathroom talking to himself for hours at a time. So
Dad's making weird noises for the bathroom that aren't usual noises.
Yeah, he's just always talking.
Yeah, because your kids are high school, college, and my kids are younger, and I don't know how single parents are doing it right now. I don't like I it's hard enough, but I don't know how single parents there's a special place in God's heart for them, because we're not trained teachers.
No.
And I teach, and we're not trained teachers.
Yeah.
And to do everything else, and it's been amazing how all this has gone, and
and math. Like I don't know math. Like I was trying to help Audrey with math, and it's a whole different way. I was showing her my way of like carrying it over, and
the real way. The real way. That's right.
What are you doing, Dad? I'm doing math. No, you're not. What is that?
Yes. Yeah. So with this writer room environment, do you think as soon as this is lifted, everyone's going to go back to meeting again, or do you think that this will kind of be? Have you heard any scuttlebutt from your fellow cohorts that are things going to be like this a little longer, in terms of like, will people actually want to work this way in the future, you think?
I know all I can speak for is my room, and we can't wait to get back into
your room,
an actual space. Yeah. And also just because like you're saying, like the kid thing, it's there's my dog. Life is happening all around you. That was like almost on cue. I don't know if you can hear my dog.
Yes.
Or your kid, one of our writers, like the kid comes charging into the room, and you have to deal with that, and you have to go grab your kid and take care of them. And
my daughter brings
make sure they're not
signs.
drinking that poison.
My daughter, light cures everything, right? But my daughter brings signs. So I'll be in the middle of something, and all of a sudden she'll appear above my computer holding a sign.
Can I eat yet, Dad?
Yes, exactly. It's been 3 hours. Can we have lunch now, please?
Yeah, I hope we get to go back. I hope.
So I know you can't really talk about what you're working on now, but I'd love to kind of hear from you a little bit about. I want to spend some time talking about Dexter.
Okay.
But it's such a it was such a, for its time, it was such a groundbreaking show, and such a great show. And I had the pleasure of watching it with you, and we would always get together. For people that don't know, Scott and his wife and family would have people over, and we would watch it together, and it was always a lot of fun.
Purely selfish on my part, because now I get to watch it with an audience, and I get to see what worked and what didn't. And,
right. Yeah, no, that's smart, actually, when you think about it. I that first season was
based on Mr. Lindsay's book.
That was just bonkers. What was it? I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the process of going from a book to kind of creating it and making it its own, because you guys deviated after the first season and began to develop more of your own original concepts and stuff for these characters and following their own paths and stories you guys were developing. I'm just curious, what was that like? Did that happen organically, or was it a specific choice that came from the network or came from the showrunner and said, no, we're gonna go do our own thing now? And what was that like? Because the first season obviously was so successful, both creatively and ratings wise and everything.
It was great having a template, like having a map that we could go down, that we could have, Dexter with this grand mystery of who's this person contacting me that knows about my past, that knows more about my past than I do, brother relationships are always fun to write about. Those have been around for a long time. So it was great having that map. It was great also discovering new pathways for characters, finding out that, like the brother being, I can't remember if it's in the book or not, but I think it wasn't the brother being like a limb surgeon, or not a limb surgeon, making fake limbs, which fits completely into Dexter's mythology as he's guiding his brother down this path of finding of connection, So as far as like then transitioning into the next season, part of it is in a TV show you sort of have to, whether it's like Breaking Bad or Dexter, you sort of have to have a journey of your characters of where they're heading. Like Breaking Bad, he's a school teacher who's got this kernel of possessive evil in his heart that we just watch go full bloom until he's a guy that lets somebody, lets Kristen Ritter die in her bed rather than saving her. And at that point, you're like, oh, that's this guy's journey. In the books, Dexter Morgan sort of stays and with the book it kind of works really well, but he stays the same. Like there's not really any sort of growth. And we wanted to really carry Dexter on a journey going forward. Like the first one being about his code and being about his past and deciding which way he's going to go. Is he going to just be a flat out killer like his brother and find that connection he's always been looking for? Or is there going to be this kernel of goodness within him that he's going to look at his brother and go, I can't go that way. I'm going to choose my sister, ultimately, my stepsister. She's dead. And then from there, like season 4, it's like, can he be a dad and a serial killer? Can he have a family and have a serial killer? Season 3, it's can Dexter have a friend? So that's why we sort of veered away from the books. The books are great, but that's why we didn't follow. And also, it's just sort of like I think they optioned the first 2 books, and we just stuck with the first book and went our own way from that point forward.
Yeah, and the books are radically different in the show. At some point, the books turn more mystical, right? And they turn more supernatural and things like that.
Yeah. I think it's like book 3, Moloch or something is actually the demon that's inside of Dexter.
Yeah.
And he loses him, and he just sits on his front porch and drinks beer the whole book, and misses Moloch.
Yeah,
which is fine. It's a way to go.
Yeah, that's another show. That's another show.
We wanted to keep it more about him, about his own journey, and it's like the core of who he was, of what he wanted, was at the end of that first season, when after the case gets solved and his brother looks like he committed suicide, and he's walking out, and all of a sudden you see the balloons overhead, and everyone's throwing confetti at Dexter, and it's like, we love you, and it's like, at that moment, we all connected with him, because that is, for the most part, that's what we want out of life, right? We want to be loved, and we want to connect, and we want people to look at us with like joy and care. And even this like sick serial killer has that need within him, which is why he followed this code.
Which is great, because it's not and that's the thing that I think a lot of people, it's like one of the things that's difficult, for I think a lot of young writers to understand is in the end, you're not writing a show about a serial killer. You're writing a show about a human being, right? Yeah. And it's like, who is a serial killer? And so if you set out to write a show about a serial killer, it's not going to be as great of a show. But if you set out to write a human being who his greatest hang up is that his desire to murder other people, right? Yeah. And I remember when I first
capture bad guys and chop up into pieces, put them in garbage bags, and throw them in the ocean. Well, we all got our quirks.
That's right, but it's his code.
Secret to him, it's his code. But the secret to him is like the voiceover, that he pulls us in. We hear his thoughts, and that's interesting. He says the things. Sometimes he thinks the things we wish we could say.
Right.
And we find ourselves agreeing with him, even though we may not go. I mean, hopefully, we're not going on the same path as he is.
Yeah.
And so that voiceover, changed as it went along, and he became more human.
Yep. And voiceover is, there's more. Let's just hop on this just for a second, because you've been on 2 really great shows that use voiceover to their advantage.
Dexter and Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones is so fun. Yeah.
And it's so fun. And the how can you overuse voiceover? So give us your opinion of how you can use voiceover well in your scripts versus why in the world why are you choosing to use voiceover? Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's funny because it comes from that sort of noir tradition, Humphrey Bogart, whatever. And a lot of times, if you look at those, it feels dated because it's coming from the literary tradition of, I walked in the room and I saw the door. The door said, Dr. Carl Hill. I opened the door and stepped inside, as you're watching that happen, which, sure, it's cool to hear Bogart saying that stuff. But after a while, I think that's why people sort of hate voiceover sometimes and why they say it's a cheat or whatever. We always tried to use it not to explain story, but to give his point of view or Jessica's point of view. And that's what helped us endear ourselves. Because if we just watch, a lot of times if you just watch Jessica Jones make a series of bad decisions while she's drinking bourbon all the time, and that's all you had, I think there's a chance you might just be like, oh, she's just a jerk. Why am I watching her? But because we understand what's going on inside of her, because we're being allowed into her secret life, her inner life, we lean in as viewers. And so if you're not giving a point of view on a scene that a lot of times is counter to what you're looking at, or that gives you a clue to what your character is thinking, that, because we get this, like, just in the creative side of making these sort of shows, we know we've failed our actor with the voiceover when they go, can't I just portray this with my acting? And then they help us. Christian Ritter and Michael C. Hall both helped us in those moments when sometimes we would slide into that. And we'd go like, yeah, of course, you're Michael C. Hall, you're Christian Ritter. You can easily portray that with a look, with a smile, with with your reaction. And so that keeps us on our toes, and that keeps us sharp as far as the use of voiceover too, and sometimes, sometimes it sells something too. Sometimes you'll put some voiceover just to help explain what's going on to the people that are reading it, that are okaying the script and all that. And then when you shoot it, you realize, we're expressing it. You don't need it at all. Yeah. But it helps sell a scene or sell a story or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that we ever consciously do that, but it happens that way too.
With Dexter, even though probably season 2 should be my favorite because it's the one where I made the guest appearance in.
Right. Put a few friends in.
Yeah, as one of the aliases. If anybody wants to go back, I don't know which episode it is, but you can see my name as an alias for someone. Yeah. But anyway,
and that season was like, Can I Have Love?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. My 2 favorite seasons of Dexter, I love the whole show, but my 2 favorite seasons were the first season and the Trinity season, which was season 3 or 4?
Yeah, season 4. Yeah, John Lithgow, just the best, most terrifying bad guy, and the kindest, most wonderful human being you've ever met.
It was brilliant casting. It really was. It was brilliant casting. And at
that point, everyone had forgotten that he was a psychopath, a big-time psychopath in the 70s, right? Not in person, but he used to play that, like Blowout and 80s and Raising Cain. And
Raising Cain,
he was always super scary.
Yeah.
But at that point, he was the guy on Third Rock from the Sun. He was the goofy alien dad,
Right. Remember his...
people going, why would you get John Lithgow? It's like, here, why don't you just go watch Brian De Palma's Blowout?
Yeah. Have you seen Cliffhanger?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But both of those, so much of the entire show, but particularly those seasons, dealt with Dexter's kind of pursuit and struggle with identity and family, and
our struggles.
Which exactly, that's what I'm getting to my point is that's why I love the show, because it's this really dark subject matter that's dealing with really, and I think it's why I connected with so many people. It was this massive hit. I remember the first season, it was so big for Showtime that CBS had bought Showtime, and CBS started airing edited versions of it during the summer on CBS. You remember that?
I do. Except the behind the scenes on that was that there was a writer's strike.
That's
so they
right.
had no content, and so they put it on there, and it went from being like a pretty nice little hit, like underground hit on Showtime, but then suddenly millions of people were watching it on CBS, and you could like change the. I mean, you know, it's not any gorier. People think it's going to be super gory, but it's not. Like CSI is gorier than anything we did, even though the themes are gorier. The themes of what we did to your head and all that were, and the swearing, which suddenly, you know, Dokes is like, "Shut up, mother lover," you know.
Yes, there was a lot of F-bombs that had to be removed because of the sister and Dokes. I forget the sister, but yeah. But
what's the flip, Dexter?
Oh,
but
man.
that season on CBS made it so that season 2, the numbers were enormous.
Yeah, it just blew up, right? By the way, you made me remember my favorite all-time television cuss word, where they changed the cuss word, was from Smokey and the Bandit, when he looks at him and he says, "You scum bum," and you're like, "What? That's not what he said." It's not what he said. Anyway, so
Breakfast Club. My favorite is "frog out." He says to the principal, "Frog out."
Frog out.
All right.
What's the so this idea of what I was trying to get to is this idea of you can deal with this really dark subject matter, and I think what people really connected with is a character that actually deals with what it means to be human, what we all deal with, this idea of belonging, family, you know, a connection with someone. And he finds that with Deborah. And his relationship with Deborah just continues to kind of pull him out of these dark worlds, especially when he sees with the Trinity killer, that the John Lithgow character, when he sees that I can have a normal life too. It is possible. He thinks, man, I can finally do this. And then of course his entire world is shattered. And you see that the one person who's there to kind of pull him out of it, though, is Deborah. And I was just always impressed with that ability to be able to deal with such dark, heavy subject matter in such a light, hopeful way.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We like the extremes, you know. That's why we like crime stories, and why they're so, in spite of the fact they're crime stories, they're very moral. You know, horror stories, horror movies, in spite of how horrorful they are, they're a lot of times they're very moral. Yeah. Not that I care about morals, but it's there's a lightness within them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Though it's like, I mean, even you know, I love Old Testament, because the Old Testament are these extreme stories of people just screwing up again and again, and like not just like tiny screw ups. I forgot to make dinner last night. Right. You know,
massive genocidal screw ups.
Yeah. And within them we find hope and truth, you know, and that was a fun thing. Like, was it season 6 when Most Def was up against Dexter? You know, like Dexter at first looks at this man who supposedly has turned his life around. Yeah. And he's looking at it from his point of view of life. We're all steeped in sin. We're all evil. And suddenly, to his much surprise, here's this man who really did turn his life around and really did become something more, which is what Dexter was dealing with in that season. You know, can I change even this much? Right. Or are we like on this path that is inevitable? Yeah. You know?
I think I still have my coffee mug from that season. So let's get to, you know, like you. So, you know, you're part of this huge show, and it's great. Lucky, yeah, very lucky. And what's it like to be a part of such a beloved show and then have people react so negatively to its finale? Like, is that just were you personally crushed by that? Like, were you like, oh man? Or do you get defiant about it and like, screw you guys, you don't know anything? Like, what's it like to be on the other side of a TV show when people are, because I wonder how the Game of Thrones guys are and all these other guys that when show are Lost or whatever, when shows end, beloved shows end not in a way that most audiences expect. What was that like on your end?
Yeah, it was rough. What I learned from that is that after a few seasons, the show is not the writer's show anymore. It's not the actor's show anymore. It is just as much our show as it is the audience's show. Mm. And it is really hard to land the airplane at that point. And on top of that, there are so many things that are going on above us and below us, and directions that you may have wanted to go, but you can't because maybe the network doesn't want it, or the producers don't want it, or and so you've got all these captains at this ship, and you got to sort of try to land it the best way that you can. And even when you do, sometimes things get removed. And while I do stand by, like, I do think our ending was flawed, but I think our ending, I still kind of stand by the ending of, like, the conundrum of Dexter Morgan, that he, if he were a real monster, he just would have stayed in Miami, and he never would have tried to turn away from it, but it was left so sort of ambiguous, as he's a lumberjack out in Oregon, which, granted, Monty Python might have screwed that up for us a little bit. I'm a lumberjack.
But it almost felt like you guys were trying to tell a Frankenstein story at the end. Like, he is pieces of all these other people in his life. And in the end, like, we're not going to kill him, because in the end, the idea of Dexter doesn't die. He lives on, and we don't know if he's going to just live in peace or if he's going to continue on his ways. It was like,
but yeah, that is the intention. It sort of was a little too wide open, maybe, but like, did he go to Oregon? Because that's in that like stretch of land, there were at that point, there were currently like 14 or 15 serial killers in that, like, Canada, Washington, Oregon, Northern California area. It's like this weird magnet of serial killers. So did he move there because of that in real life?
Serial killers like it wet and cold, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Or was he separating himself from humanity so that he wouldn't do this thing anymore? And was he punishing himself by surrounding himself with chainsaws, which is his origin story of how his mother was killed?
Right.
So it was landing all these things, but it was hard. It was crushing when critics really hated it. And then, like, on Twitter, I had, like, fans who, former Dexter fans who, like, threatened me.
Come after you. Yeah.
Threatened my life. We'll put you on a table, Reynolds. What did you do? Yeah, I mean, it definitely gave me a lot of grace to other shows.
Did you experience any of that toxic, what do they call now? Toxic fandom or whatever? That you experienced any of that?
I feel like we were the early vanguard. You're welcome, Internet.
Was there a big decision that came from up above on whether, because a lot of us, I mean, I assumed he was going to die. Like, was there a big decision like, no, we're not going to kill him, or did it happen organically in the room? I'll give a spoiler. Yeah. I'll give a spoiler warning at the beginning of this. So.
Yeah, we told the story that I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people in the room on that, so we found a way that we all agreed upon.
Yeah.
To end the season.
So then of
course, everyone talked about all sorts of different ways. Can you imagine at the top of season 8, knowing we're ending, like, there was hundreds of ideas of how we wanted to end it,
Yeah, and and everyone has their own theories. I had my own theories
that's right.
Were wrong completely. So you not too long after that, you worked on a few other great shows, but then you segued into the Marvel world, and so you've been in the Marvel world for a little while, working on a couple of different shows.
Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Inhumans.
Yeah. So with Jessica Jones, I would love to talk to you a little bit about that. You were brought in by Melissa, who you met on Dexter. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. She's awesome. She's great. She did. Yeah.
A lot of explain a little bit for people, because in many ways that's how most writers' rooms are built, right? People meet each other in working environments, and you figure out who you like working with and whose voices you like and the style, right? And so then when you go on to do other stuff, it's like, hey, let's bring that person in too, right? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, exactly. That is, it's the people that come with fresh ideas and are excited to be there, that pay attention in the room, that are focused in the room, that don't crap on ideas, unless you have an alternate pitch. It's because I mean, not all rooms aren't like all people you've worked with before, but usually that core 3 or 4 that you're building from starts there. And then a lot of times she'll be like, is there anybody you worked with in the past that you'd want to pull over here too? So it really is, I mean, sure, agents and managers have a bit of a sway, but it really does come, even when it's like a new writer that we've never worked with before. If we read somebody, then we call other showrunners that have worked with this person and say, hey, what were they like in the room? Were they, because I read a sample and the sample's great. And sometimes sometimes the showrunners are like, oh, if I had a show right now, I would have kept her. And then sometimes people say, yeah, they're a good writer. And you read between the lines then. Like that's where it ends.
Right. Because being in the room is, explain for people that don't understand, right? Explain a little bit. Like you are together for a really long time. So you have to be able to figure out how to get along with these people. You can't be you're not going to last long if you're an a-hole, basically.
That's right. You will not. Even as a showrunner, after a while, people may not want to work with you if you are a jerk to the people you work for, or if you don't value their ideas, or if you're the kind of person that all ideas have to come from you. Because the joy of writing for TV is this huge collaborative experience. And a lot of times, when you're staffing a room up, it's not like you want all the same kind of people either. There's some people that you're bringing in because they're hilarious and they're going to give you like those 5 great jokes, that week. And there's some people that are just like, when I think of like Jim Kruger, who are good with these big, giant, grand ideas, that you can pin a season on. Mm-hmm. And then there's just people that are really great at story, or people that are always going to like come from left field, and you may only use like 3 ideas that are from left field that season, but those 3 ideas are so freaking great that it's worth it. You don't have to feel the pressure that every day I got to come up with like 7 ideas. Like when people come on staff, on any staff I'm working on, I'll sit with like the younger writers, and I'll say, listen, we don't need, your job is to be present, and your job is to pay attention. You may be writing on the board some, but if you give us like 1 or 2 great ideas or great moments or great dialogue things a week, then you're solid as a staff writer or as a story editor. You shouldn't feel the need, because a lot of times you're so fresh and raw. Like I had a showrunner even on Dexter. He's like, Scott, your ideas are great. You don't have to do it all the time. Like really pitch things that you think are going to land.
That's interesting.
And so you don't have to feel like you got to carry anything.
Yeah.
That's not why we hired you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some of the best. I mean, I'm still pretty talkative, but but that was some of the best. That's the best advice I ever got. And so I pass that along to younger writers, and a lot of times they pay attention to it, and because it's a hard thing, because a lot of times when you're coming into a room, if you haven't come up doing TV, like if you haven't been the writing assistant, who's getting lunches for the writer's room, and every once in a while you get to sit inside of it. And then you get transferred to be, or the writer's PA, and then you get to be the writer's assistant. So you're in the room taking notes and assembling story at the end of every day. So now you're really into the rhythm of a room, and then move into it. If you're not, a lot of times you're a writer who's been working in a bookstore like I was, and then at night working on a screenplay. And so when you're in a room, there's a certain muscle that you need that makes sure that you are present. And I think when you're a writer who hasn't worked in a room, you hear an idea that someone's talking about, and then you let that thing sit in your brain and you ruminate on it for a while, and you're thinking it through. Meanwhile, that room is moving 100 miles an hour, and we're in scene 7, and you got your great idea for that scene that we've already locked down. And then, because I see this all the time, and they go, "Hey, what if Jessica Jones doesn't take the picture, but she throws the camera across the room?" And you're like, we're way past that now. And so you have to stay, it's a muscle, you have to be able to stay with a room and follow where it's going and participate in that part. So for younger writers, I would encourage you to focus on staying with the room, because we're not trained to think that way as writers. We are trained to sit by our computer and look out the window and dream of this thing and then write it down and then go back over tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's not as rapid movement. And it doesn't come natural to, I think, a lot of people, but that's what TV writing is. That's what being in a room is.
Now, I was talking to Jeremy, and he has he does half-hour Chuck Lorre show where he described the process, which just sounds crazy to me. They write in the room, line by line, man, line by line. They go through the script and they write it. So that's one way. You've done, you're a 1 hour guy. So what is the process like for writing for your shows?
I can only speak to how I like to do it. So that's what I will do. But I learned it on Dexter. And then of course being, even on The Following, I sort of pushed it this way a little bit. And then all the Marvel shows, because I was the number 2 in all of those then at that point under the showrunner. We break it by character. So Dexter Morgan does this. Jessica Jones, we follow her. At the beginning of the season, we break the whole season long, where she starts and where she ends. We know what the theme of the show is going to be, what the theme of that season is going to be. We know who our bad guy is going to be and how they're going to interact. And we just sort of break a big loose version of the whole thing. And then once we start breaking episodes, the way I like to do it is we break by character. So we'll follow like a Dexter season would have been following Dexter, following Deb, following the big bad, and depending on you go down there from the other characters, but a lot of Batista might have a story that season or whatever, or that episode. And so we break each thing by character. On the boards. So Dexter goes over 4 boards, and Deb would go across 2.5 or 3, and the other characters would be sort of lower extent, and we break it in different colored markers. So Dexter would have been black, and Deb would have been blue, and Big Bad's always red. And then once we break the episode down that way, then we would weave it. We put numbers next to it, and then so now you have a beat sheet basically. Then the writer would go off, writer or writers, depending on who's working at it, would go off and take that beat sheet and pull it into a beautiful outline, which would be a 10 to 15 page outline. And then pass it to the writers, and we all read it and give notes. The upper levels would give notes on it. They go back and do those notes. If we're crushed for time, the showrunner or the number 2 might sit down with it and just take a pass at it, and then it gets sent off to them. And then if it all goes well, the writer then goes off for however many days we have before production. Sometimes you get 2 weeks. Sometimes I've done some where we had 2 days.
Wow.
I did one which was less than a day.
Wow.
But the good news is your outlines that we do on the shows I work on are pretty fleshed out. There's even some dialogue in it and all that. So you're just like expanding this thing and finding the magic within it, you know.
So what does your outline look like? 10 to 15 pages. Are you doing like, is it almost treatment style? Where you, like you said, where you have occasional dialogue and you're kind of, what does it look like? What does that document look like when you do it?
It'd be like interior Miami Metro Police Station. And then we just prose out like several paragraphs of what happens in that scene. And then next scene, like slug line, and then prose, and slug line and prose, you know.
Okay, so like scene by scene. So you basically come up with the scenes. So you have the structure, first scene, end scene, everything in between, but it's just kind of prose out. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating to me. Yeah, and just hearing the different processes is just such a fascinating thing. So with Jessica Jones, which is such a great show, and I know you're a huge.
Came from a great comic book.
Right, and that's what
Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos created from whole cloth a brand new superhero. You know, like she's not old school like the rest of the Marvel shows. You know, Iron Fist is definitely like 70s because of the kung fu craze that was happening in the inner cities. Luke Cage is because of blaxploitation movies that were happening in the 70s. Daredevil's even before that. But Jessica Jones is just this beautiful noir dream of a character that came from Bendis and Gaydos that was like a gift to us as writers that we had that template, you know, of like a 11 issue, 12 issue, or 20, I forget how many issues, but this very compact thing of her up against the Purple Man, you know. It was great. It was great.
I know you're a huge comic book fan, so you've known, you know, not just that comic, but all these other characters you've worked for, Inhumans and Iron Fist, and you know these characters, you know, you've known that world. Did you feel more than some of the other shows you worked on? Did you feel like kind of that added pressure as a fan of comics coming into this context? Like, did you feel a sense of like, how I need to be a good caretaker of these characters?
You know, remember I was talking about with Dexter, like by the time you get past season 4, it's now the fans just as much as ours. Well, that's where we start. It's more the fans than it's ours, because there's a bunch of people like me who grew up reading him when he was a little kid. So they have a relationship with these characters that sometimes are stronger, way stronger than a lot of the writers may even have, you know. So it's you know, it's scary. Like with Iron Fist was tough because so many people love him, but then also so many people nowadays got upset because why are you giving, you know, it's like the white savior sort of complex of this rich white kid who's going to come and learn kung fu and is better than everybody else in the whole wide world, which was like right at the same time that like Trump was becoming president, you know, like it was like this whole, you know, like there's a huge backlash against that, you know, why can't it be an Asian guy? Why can't it be an Asian? Why can't it be an Asian woman or whatever?
Yeah. Who wins in a fight, Shang-Chi or Iron Fist? Has Marvel ever decided that?
I pushed so hard to find that out. It's one of those things, you know, because there's Marvel Cinematic, the movie section, and there was a TV section. Yep. And back then it was like Jeff Loeb was the TV section, and it was awesome and great, and I loved it. Such a good time. And but a lot of times we would suggest, you know, especially me being such a Marvel head, I'd be like, oh, let's have them fight, you know, whatever big bad that I'm really excited about them fighting this person. Like I really wanted Jessica Jones to be up against Kraven the Hunter. I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if like suddenly Jessica Jones, you know, this rich white hunter guy decides he wants to play the most dangerous game in New York City with her. And they're like, great idea. We love it. He doesn't belong to us.
Yeah, can't touch it.
Sometimes they wouldn't even tell us that. They'd just be like, great idea. Not going to happen. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, that's funny.
Wouldn't that have been great?
That would be amazing. But you didn't have Craven. But man, oh man, you had David Tennant.
David Tennant,
Who-
another who's like another one of these people that is like
No, Scott.
terrifying on screen, but is the nicest human being you've ever met.
Man, I mean, he is so good as the Purple Man. And you know, explain it for people a little bit. The Purple Man in the comics is an interesting character, but he's literally purple in the comics.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you can't
We
do
couldn't
that.
do that.
Yeah, you couldn't do that in a grounded television series. So it's
But we put him in a purple suit, and you'd see like the cuff of his sleeve, and whenever Jessica Jones, I mean, this was our cinematographer Manuel Billiter. Whenever the PTSD would start to hit, the lights would go a little more purple. So we were true to the feeling of that character without, you know, even the name Kilgrave is a ridiculous name. Kilgrave. Yeah, like why not murder tomb, right? So, you know, we had to sort of play with that even a little. Like Jessica Jones made fun of him, you know, when she so that's the name you made up. To me, the core of a good bad guy though is understanding their pain and where they come from, so that if at a certain point in the season of I know movies is probably different, but within a TV show, if at a certain point you don't feel for them and understand them, then I think we as writers have failed the series, you know, as the big bad. Because even as terrifying as Trinity was, as terrifying as Kilgrave was, you know, I think that the episode where Jessica Jones is stuck in the house, I mean, I wrote the episode, so I'm a little biased, but where she's stuck in the house with Kilgrave when he bought her the house and he's just trying to make everything sort of perfect for her, and you understand his backstory. Like your heart, my goal was to make your heart break for this big bad who has been just a nightmare creature up until that time, and that made you care for him and care for the season just a little bit more, you know. If your bad guy is just like, I'm going to destroy the world, then that's it. Who cares? Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. That was a fantastic episode. And his performance in it was spectacular. Did he win? He didn't win the Emmy, did he?
No.
Yeah, he should. Kristen Ritter's so great too as Jessica. And for me, what makes that show work is her. She's just so the character of Jessica Jones. It's like her superpower is her ability to not give an F until she can't help but give an F.
Yeah, because deep down in her soul, you know she does.
Exactly.
But she's put up these walls because all these terrible things have happened to her, and she lost her family.
Yeah.
And you know, she feels like she destroys everything she touches. But that's, you know, her and Patsy had this like on again, off again relationship that is so important to her. And I tell you what, like Christian Ritter, like Michael C. Hall, are the greatest collaborators working with us as writers. I'm jealous of everybody who gets to work with them in the future, because they never made us as writers feel like idiots. They never trashed it. They always helped make everything better. Or they could be talked into understanding what we're trying to do and finding a better way of doing it. You know, they're just pure, wonderful, great artists. They're the best. Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
I wish I could work with them all the time.
You and I, we've been friends for a really long time, and we one of the things that we have bonded over is our mutual affection for the Western genre.
Amen.
And we've been a part of a group of guys who for years used to meet and watch Westerns all the time. And you are a Wild Bunch guy. I think if I remember correctly, that was kind of your, that was of all time. Yeah. That was a seminal film for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would say the two seminal films for me, as far as like what I wanted to be as a creator and a writer, would be The Wild Bunch and Asphalt Jungle. And I look back on them, and because they're both about the most flawed human beings you can imagine, who, in the midst of their flaws that you understand, even if you don't like completely understand their backstory, but you understand their backstory in both those movies and why they are what they are. They find their moments of redemption. You know, that end thing when they step up and decide they're going to rescue Angel and the Wild Bunch. And it's just as simple as, let's go. Why the hell not?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
That moved me as a kid, and it moves me today.
Yep.
Same with Asphalt Jungle. I mean, granted, they're all going to do a heist, but they have their own code, and they're all trying to work with each other and for each other, and stand up for each other, in spite of the fact that they've all been kicked in the teeth repeatedly. You know.
Yeah.
Like I love that. Super flawed, just screwed up human beings.
If we could introduce,
and a lot of Westerns are that way. Yeah.
Yep. If we could introduce, if we could have people, all 11 people who are going to listen to this podcast, if we could introduce them.
I'll make my family listen to it. That's like 10 more.
If we could introduce this audience to a filmmaker, can you think of a better filmmaker to introduce someone to than Sam Peckinpah?
No. I mean, he is the king of the flawed. Whether it's Steve McQueen as Junior Bonner or Dustin Hoffman in a horrific movie, Straw Dogs. But, you know, like I don't enjoy that movie, but the truth that Peckinpah is trying to express to us is moving. The Wild Bunch. I love Convoy. You probably do too, because it's from one of the greatest country songs of all time.
Of course, Convoy. So tell me, give us your order of how people should experience Peckinpah. Where do you want them to start? Wild Bunch? No,
I think it's a great question, Jimmy Duke. Oh man. I feel like you should start with Ride the High Country.
Oh, stop it. Oh, I love it so much.
Because that's the key to everything. That's the key to Sam Peckinpah. That's the key to a man who hopes to enter his house justified.
Yes.
And the duality of man, his struggle with good and evil, and with living by a code and betraying that code and being betrayed. Like that, to me, that's the Rosetta Stone for all things Sam Peckinpah. So I'd go Ride the High Country, and then you're ready for the Wild Bunch. And the Wild Bunch, like they're all a bunch of depraved, horrible human beings.
Yes.
The way he introduces them, where you think they're the heroes, and suddenly they slaughter people in the streets in a beautiful blood ballet that is both horrific and gorgeous to look at. I mean, that's what he does. He presents the horror and the beauty of mankind in an unflinching way.
Yeah.
And then I would go Junior Bonner, because now you're ready for sort of a sweeter story.
Yeah.
About, especially if you're getting older like I am and like you are, where it's like, how do you may have been this like grand, crazy man when you were younger. It's my dog. But how do you go forward in your life gracefully when you're falling apart?
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch those three, you sort of see the full range of who Peckinpah is. But then you have to go Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid.
I would put maybe that one, or maybe a little sooner for me, but.
Yeah. And then I would go, and then if you're continuing on for like the greatest day of your life of watching film, you'd have to sort of hit Steve McQueen again in The Getaway, which is not necessarily like that was a work for hire, but it's based on this great Jim Thompson novel. And it's so good that I got a tattoo of it in honor of my wife and I surviving 23 years of marriage.
Wait,
whenever
as a getaway, I don't understand.
The Getaway, because whenever they're being chased by the cops, and it's just Steve McQueen, just Doc and his wife, and everybody's out to take him down. The bad guys are trying to take him down. The good guys are trying to take him down. They're driving. She's got the steering wheel, and he's got the shotgun in his hand, and he says, "Punch it, baby." and she smashes the gas pedal, and they get away, and they get
Yes.
through it. And it's a great allegory for.
That is great, actually. You introduced me. I remember, so we have like these guys. We started meeting years ago, and we for the longest time we would watch like a double feature
once a month.
Once a month.
An old Western and a new Western. Yeah.
And and I had not seen Ride the High Country before that group, so I attribute that group to, and it's now become one of my favorite films. And for you, it's kind of like what you were saying. That's what I watch that film and I think to myself, man, if I'm going to grow old, and we all are, then when it comes to the end, I don't want to be in an old folks home. I want you to drop me off somewhere in the middle of some war-torn country and just put a gun in my hand and let me just walk down the street. That's the ideal that I live for because of that film. It's such a great send-off to those two. And then if you've watched those two actors play cowboys up to that point, it's
Randolph
just
Scott
Randolph Scott and
Joel McCrea.
That's Joel McCrea.
Yeah, because it works on this meta level because they've been the heroes. I mean, even in Blazing Saddles, they're like Randolph Scott. Randolph Scott. Like,
That's right.
He's a tank. He's a tank.
That's right. He was the cowboy. He was the cowboy of cowboys. When you watch a film, because I know you love films, I know there's like a handful of people that I know that have a almost encyclopedic knowledge of cinema, and you watch a lot of stuff that I've never even heard of. So I grew up watching film, but I didn't grow up in the context of adventure. My film viewing wasn't adventurous, right? Like it just stuck with what was on TV, what my dad was showing me. So I grew up watching Westerns and kung fu movies, and my Saturday mornings after cartoons was usually a Bruce Lee movie,
wonderful,
and a Western, and and then of course I'm a child of the 80s, so all those great 80s films. But and at that time, that's when 70s.
Let out some steam. Yeah.
Bennett, we should have a little steam, but that's when the and then 70s cinema. I didn't discover 70s cinema until college, right? Which is probably, right. I guess that's probably most people. But I guess my question to you is where did your love of film develop, and how did you find yourself becoming more experimental with your film viewing? Like, when did you start going, man, I'm going to start watching stuff that I've never heard of before? How did that come about? Because I know a lot of people didn't grow up that way. Did you grow up that way?
I grew up super duper evangelical, and so movies were kind of the bad guy. Like my grandma, she famously said to our family anyway, that she'll never go to an R-rated movie because if Jesus comes back again, he won't look for her there.
Oh man!
So I know, but so R-rated movies were like verboten, so I had to sneak all those or catch them at friends' houses, or or convince them that The Sword and the Sorcerer was actually The Sword and the Stone. It's a Disney movie. It's going to be fine.
Boy, were they surprised.
Yeah, Grizzlies. It's a Disney show. It's going to be fine. It's not about a mutant bear prophecy. I mean, it's killing everybody.
Phantasm is like Fantasia.
Yeah, and I grew up reading Fangoria magazine, which is like great pictures, and Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was like pictures with sort of witty recaps of the movie. So and because my parents wouldn't let me watch all those movies, I had to read the novelizations of them. So they were the grand taboo thing that I had to sneak, and that were a great adventure to try to be able to watch. And I've always been drawn to the things that, if someone tells me no, I have a hard time accepting that. So I guess that's how it sort of started.
When did you start getting into, cinema though? College, yeah.
It really was, because then I didn't have to sneak it out anymore. I was able to go to the video store on the weekend with me and my friend Terry Wright, and when everybody else would go away, we went to the same college for a little bit, not the same time because I'm old and you're not as old. But we'd go to the video store and I would rent the stacks. I had lists of movies that I always wanted to see. So I went to college and I just started catching up, and I'd watch 10 movies a weekend, you know. So yeah, like you, college is where I opened up in the 70s. And as I voraciously consumed all of those stories, then I started fixating on things. So when I moved to LA, suddenly I had access to the entire 80s Hong Kong movies and that whole movement of John Woo and Ingo Lam. And so I would, my poor wife, me and my friend Dan Budnick, who I worked with at the bookstore, would twice a week go to Eddie Brandt's Saturday Matinee, a video store, and we would rent 10 movies, and that's what we would do on Saturdays. Eddie Brandt's,
man, Eddie Brandt's.
Still there.
I know, so great. One time I went into Eddie Brandt's and asked for what was it, an episode of something, and it was like some obscure episode, and they said, "Hey, write it down." And 2 weeks later, I got a phone call.
Yep.
A VHS copy showed up of this random TV show episode that I wanted.
Yep.
They're amazing.
So that's how I did it. I'd find a genre and I would fixate on it for like a year, and I would go down that rabbit hole so deep and absorb it all until it was time for blaxploitation movies, until it was time for kung fu, 70s kung fu movies, Shaw Brothers kung fu movies, or Kinji Fukasaku movies, or Yakuza samurai movies, whatever. And I've evened it out a lot more now, though. I feel like I've dived down all of those holes. So now I'm just voracious for anything and everything, I guess. Last night I watched Chopping Mall with the kids on Shudder for the Joe Bob Briggs last drive-in. Yeah.
Chopping Mall.
Which is fun because now I get to go down these paths with my teenage children and show them things that they end up really loving. Like we watched Le Cercle Rouge, which is Jean-Pierre Melville, who's like another fantastic, life-changing filmmaker for me. And they liked it.
Yeah.
Even raising my kids as film lovers, I didn't let the world tell me that they have to watch Barney and all that sort of stuff. I was like, no, I believe that I can show my kids Duck Soup when they're 5 years old, and they're going to laugh at the slapstick. And then when we watch it again, when they're 8 years old, they're going to catch more of the jokes. And then when I watch it again, when they're 15 years old, they can hardly breathe because now they've grown up watching that thing,
Yeah.
Whereas most times people go, it's an old movie. Why would they want to watch that?
Yeah.
Story's a story.
You know what? People don't believe me when I tell them, but it's true. My kids at the age of 8 and 6, they're now 10 and 8, but they sat for the entire 3 hours and watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World with me.
Yeah.
And my son, more than my daughter, my son requests it all the time to this day. He wants to watch it again and watch it again. And Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein, It's a Mad, 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 Mad. Those are, like they love those films. Those are become like repeat viewings in our family. Yeah.
Yeah. Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein is like the greatest gateway horror movie ever made.
So great.
Because you show them that, and then you could go, hey, you want to watch Wolfman in his own movie? Here's this.
Which
you know Frankenstein and Wolfman fought?
Yeah.
Check this out.
And I grew up with those movies, by the way. To me, like Wolfman and, oh man, the Lon Chaney.
I've got the Wolfman on my arm now.
So great. Well, would you say that keeping a kind of keeping old films and older films and, filmmakers you've admired from the past, rewatching them, keeping them kind of close to your heart, has that kind of in a sense kind of kept you fresh and relevant today? Do you feel like it continues to inspire your creativity and your writing?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's if we don't know where we were, how will we know where we're going? It's funny, as I said, my son Zane, he's in his freshman year of film school. He's going to the studio school downtown at the LA Center Studios, and he's with a bunch of kids who, young adults, I guess, who have zero sense of history. Yeah. And it's like frustrating for Zane even sometimes, but then it's also very exciting because he's able to go, oh, you have never seen The Wild Bunch, you've never seen a Peter Greenaway film, you've never seen, you know, the Truffaut, whatever, he's able to show them, and he's opening up their world in a way, which is exciting. But it is funny to me that, you know, because it's not like, what's funny is that it's not like the filmmakers of yore, like Howard Hawks, who had this whole other life, who was flying planes and doing all this sort of stuff before, or filmmakers like Frank Capra, who like went to war and experienced, you know, life. Now, Jean-Pierre Melville did all sorts of things before he became a filmmaker. It's like nowadays we grow up within our like sort of narrow bubble of watching experience. So I think and that's all you have. So I think it's important to like to keep your non-movie active life just as alive as your cinema, TV,
right.
watching, streaming, now streaming life, you know?
Yeah.
To have like the real life, like, you know, Peckinpah worked on a ranch, you know,
right.
Before he became a writer and then a TV director and then a filmmaker. You know?
Yeah, you can't replace real world experience. But at the same time, I don't understand people, because we get people who apply to Act One, they want to be TV writers and they don't watch television, and I'm like I don't understand that. Like you're not going to succeed. You're not going to get a job and be successful writing for television if you don't watch television, if you don't love television, and you're not gonna. You know, how can you say you want to write films if you don't, you know, we get that a lot in kind of Christian circles. There's such this, you mentioned your grandma, where it's like, there's such an aversion to certain types of film that suddenly now you have closed yourself off to so much that there's not much left, you know, there's not much left. And that's kind of, I think, something I always recommend. Like, look, if you want to do this, make sure that you actually understand the genre. Are you a fan of the genre? Are you a fan of this? You know, and I'm sure, like, even for you writing for Marvel shows, it helped that it did. I mean, you didn't have to be probably a fan of comic books, but it helped, didn't it?
Yeah. No, it was a great mix of people that had never even heard of the Inhumans, and those of us who grew up wishing they were an Inhuman. You know. I definitely think you need both, but those other people were like fans of theater and TV and movies, and had a breadth of an education in movies. And what's fun too is, like, if you're in a good room, they'll suggest movies to you that you've never even heard of. Like this guy Rick Cleveland is one of the greatest writers I've ever known. Rick Cleveland suggested a movie called, it's Paul Newman, I think he directed it too, called Sometimes a Great Notion. And I'd never even heard of it. And it was like a game changer movie for me. It's incredible. It's so moving. It's like a little flawed, but it's, you know, it's got this scene, this life or death scene about brotherhood and loving your neighbor and all of these things that is so gut wrenching that I couldn't believe I'd never even heard of it. Like me, Scott Reynolds had never even heard of it. So it's important to be open. And now that scene, I'll always be trying to find a way to tell the spirit of that story, you know? I mean, even like my growing up reading the Bible, like I have, it informed me as a writer. Like a lot of times in the room, I'll bring up, well, you know, there's the story with where Deborah stuck a tent peg through a guy's head. What?
I remember one time you called me. And you said, or you texted me, and you said, "Hey Jimmy, real quick, do you remember what's the phrase that's always on those old tables at the front of a church or something?" And I was like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, what's that phrase that's sometimes carved into a table?" And I was like, "Oh, is that do this in remembrance of me?" And you're like, "Thanks, got it." And then like later we were talking, and you were like, "Yeah, we were creating a scene, and someone had asked you about, you know, church setups," and you were like, no, because you were a Christian, and they were like, "Hey, what would be in an old church?" And you were like, "Well, there would be this table where the Lord's Supper stuff would be set up, and you wanted to make sure that the art department knew exactly, you know, you wanted it to be authentic, and you know, you were the Christian on set that they could ask those questions to. And
Yeah.
what was, is it, because I know most people, we ask this question, and I've talked to you about this a lot. I know you've never experienced any type of, oh man, he's a Christian, let's not talk to him.
No.
If anything, you've had to approach it from the other angle, which is, how do I not be so embarrassed when when Christians do other things outside the room that I then have to be in the room and have to explain, no, that's not the way Jesus is.
Worse now than ever, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I hate being lumped in with a bunch of knuckleheads.
Right.
This
And is that
fundamentalism that drives me crazy. Yeah.
Is that something that you have a lot of conversations about? Is that something that a lot of people are like, Scott, what is the deal with this? Is it provided opportunities for you to really kind of help people understand, hey, look, this might not be how you believe, but this is my understanding of how Scripture is.
I certainly don't defend the knuckleheads. I try to defend what I like, the spirit of where people are coming from, even though I may vastly disagree with them, and how we're all on a path. We're on a journey of understanding, and some of us, I don't want to say further along, but some of us are at this are up over here, and some people are still down over here, and it's not coming from a malicious thing that
well, most
comes
aren't
off that way.
Most aren't coming. There's some that
yeah, but there are some. You're right. There are some absolutely horrible examples of people who say they are followers of Christ. I mean, every time I go to Comic-Con and those idiots are out there screaming at people, I'm just like, what are you doing? Why is this helpful? What?
Yeah, they're my favorite.
You're turning people away. I actually get upset with when I talk to friends who complain about, like, oh, I feel so persecuted and all of that, because that's just, to me, that's just, I don't even know what that means. I don't know where it comes from. I've never experienced that. But I mean, a writer's room is caustic anyway. We're all making fun of each other to a certain extent,
Right.
We're all hacking on each other. That's just part of the process.
It's very much a family environment, siblings picking on each other.
Yeah. That has not been my experience. I don't like the thought of like the victimization sort of thing. That just drives me crazy. And maybe if you do feel like you're being victimized because of your faith or whatever, or your biases or whatever, maybe you need to look at those things and see if they really are part of a tradition, or that has no relevance anymore, or if it's alive and real nowadays. Maybe you need to look at what you believe.
Yeah.
And really decide if this is this just religion, or is this something that Jesus was about? Because 9 times out of 10, you're gonna err on. I believe we need to err on the side of grace and love, which is the story that he was telling. Making the kingdom of heaven now. And all the other sort of judgment, and I don't know, it just, I mean, and I grew up thinking a lot of those things, and I don't anymore, and my faith is probably more vibrant and alive. I don't want to say more, because it's a spectrum. It's just a different place, and it's better and closer, and feels more like the words of Jesus than a series of judgments from some being that's up top in space looking down on us with disgust. Which is how I grew up. I grew up thinking that. I grew up thinking I am steeped in sin, and I'm a loser, and I'm terrible, and all I do is fail, and I define myself by what I didn't do than rather what I do. Do.
Yeah, you define yourself by doo-doo, and that's the lead that I'm gonna when I push this out to social media. You define yourself by doo-doo. Scott, I will say that you and your wife Amy have been such beautiful examples to me and my wife, and We just love you guys, and the way you guys choose to love on other people, invite people into your lives, and give your lives away for other people. It's a beautiful thing, and I just thank you for your friendship, and I thank you for this time, and I just appreciate you and appreciate all that you do and all your hard work.
Well, you guys have always been our secret project, so I'm happy that you've come along so far.
That's right. That's right. We still got a ways to go.
Amy's unbelievable. Amy is such a kind and gracious person. She makes me a much more kind and gracious person, because that's not my natural predilection. Even the way that she's having us help, refugee families and things like that.
That's right.
We should always be trying to connect ourselves with people that are going to make us better, whether that means, in some sort of spiritual, whatever way, or as a writer, you should be connecting yourself with people that are better than you, because that's the only way you're going to become a better writer. I see so many people who just sort of like surround themselves with people at the same sort of level, or they're maybe the top of the heap. And if you're doing that, you'll never be great. You'll never be great.
That's awesome.
If you're not being challenged by other people, the people that are in your life, maybe you need to start thinking about other folks.
That's right. That's great. I love that. All right, we'll end there. I just thank you for who you are. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your friendship, and and I appreciate you. And if it's okay, I like to end. I'm trying to end these podcasts with being able to say a prayer for you. So can I pray for you real quick?
Sure.
All right.
Let's do this.
Make you feel uncomfortable. Dear God, thank you so much for Scott. Thank you so much for who he is. I pray a blessing upon his family, his relationship with his wonderful wife, Amy, and his awesome kids. And pray you be with him in all of his endeavors with his career, and just keep giving him opportunities to be able to love on other people and make an impact in other people's lives. And pray this in Jesus' name, and your promise will stand. Amen. Thanks for listening to the Act One podcast. To learn more about our programs, visit us online at actoneprogram.com.